Ready? Yes.
Yes. Krishna, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 3.
Verse number 33. And this verse says, Sri Sutta Goswami continued, My dear Brahmana, Shata or Vidura, the great devotee of the Lord, achieved transcendental bliss by hearing the narration of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the authoritative source of the sage, Kol Sharava or Maitreya, and he was very pleased. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. If anyone wants to derive transcendental pleasure by hearing the pastimes of the Lord, he must hear from the authoritative source. As explained here, Maitreya heard the narration from his bona fide spiritual master, and Vidura also heard from Maitreya. One becomes an authority simply by presenting whatever he has heard from his spiritual master, and one who does not accept a bona fide spiritual master cannot be an authority. This is clearly explained here. If one wants to have transcendental pleasure, he must find a person with authority. It is also stated in the Bhagavatam that simply by hearing from an authoritative source with the ear and the heart, one can relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible. Sanatana Goswami therefore has especially warned that one should not should not hear anything about the personality of the Lord from the lips of a non-devotee. Non-devotees are considered to be like serpents, as milk is poisoned by a serpent's touch. So also the narration of the pastimes of the Lord is as pure as milk. When it's administered by a serpent like non devotees, it becomes poisonous. Not only does it have no effect in transcendental pleasure, but it is dangerous also. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has warned that no description of the pastimes of the Lord should be heard from the Mayavada or impersonal school. He has clearly said, Mayavadi pasya sunile haya sarvanas. If anyone hears the Mayavadis' interpretation of the pastimes of the Lord, or their interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or any other Vedic literature, then he is doomed. Once one is associated with impersonalists, he can never understand the personal feature of the Lord and his transcendental pastimes. Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages headed by Sonaka, and therefore he addressed them in this verse as Dvija, twice born. The sages assembled in Namisaranya, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami, were all Brahmanas, but to acquire the qualifications of a Brahmana is not everything. Merely to be twice born is not perfection. Perfection is attained when one hears the pastimes and activities of the Lord from a bona fide source. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So there are many important points made here, and it's interesting to see that uh, what Prabhupada says, one becomes an authority simply by presenting whatever he has heard from his spiritual master. And one who does not accept a bona fide spiritual master cannot be an authority. This is clearly explained here. If one wants to have transcendental pleasure, he must find a person with authority. It is also stated in the Bhagavatam that simply by hearing from an authoritative source with the ear and the heart, one can relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, it is not possible. So we we have to recognize the system that is traditional in the Vedic say tradition, but also uh, reinforced by Srila Prabhupada. That is, we should only hear from bona fide authorities, and if we hear from XYZ, we will become misled and possibly never be able to understand correctly who Krishna is and how to serve Krishna in the right way. Therefore, it says Sanatana Goswami has especially warned that one should not hear anything about the personality of the Lord from the lips of a non devotee. Non devotees are considered to be like serpents. As milk is poisoned by a serpent's touch, so also the narration of the pastimes of the Lord is as pure as milk when administered by serpent like. When administered by serpent like non devotees, it becomes poisonous. Not only does it have no effect in transcendental pleasure, but it is dangerous also. Well, why is it dangerous? Because you become misled and get a wrong understanding of who Krishna is and how to properly serve Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya therefore has warned that no description of pastimes of the Lord should be heard from the Mayavada or in personalist school. He has clearly said, Mayavadi Basya Sunili Haya Sarvanas. If anyone hears the Mayavadi's interpretation of the pastimes of the Lord, or their interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, or any other Vedic literature, then he is doomed. Once one is associated with impersonalists, he can never understand the personal feature of the Lord and his transcendental past. Well, this is the truth. This is what Prabhupada established also. When I say also, I mean Prabhupada's purport. But Prabhupada was very, let's say, strict about this. Sometimes his devotees would go and hear uh, outside people speak, and he wasn't very pleased by that at all because he went to all this trouble to write all these shastras, and now after that, as if there's going to be something they can learn outside of Prabhupada's books is ridiculous. Prabhupada has given us everything, so we don't have to go anywhere else to find out about who Krishna is and how to serve Krishna. However, the people that, in spite of all these warnings, they think they can go away and hear lectures by non-devotees. And there's so many non-devotees. You know, you can, there's so many so-called gurus in India and the United States. And if someone thinks that Prabhupada is not giving enough nectar or it's not giving uh, or they're just curious to hear what somebody else has to say. Not only it's a waste of time, but it's a violation of shastric, let's say, culture. We should not hear from unbona fide sources. So if you start listening to people who, uh, like for example, they say, "Well, I don't read the shastras," uh, and then they start talking and acting like a guru. Uh, well, I mean, pretending to be a guru. You cannot be a guru unless you speak shastrically. So if someone says, I don't read Shastra, then how can that person be worthy of hearing from such a person? Uh, it's a what you would call a travesty, a nonsense. So we should only hear from bona fide devotees. Okay. So it says Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages headed by Sonaka, and therefore he addressed them in this verse as Dvija, twice-born. Well, the firstborn is the seminal birth of parents, and the second birth is when you take initiation from bona fide guru. And and then from that point on, you only listen to the bona fide guru and other bona fide devotees. So Sutta Goswami was speaking to the sages headed by Sonaka Rishi, and therefore he addressed them in this verse as Dvija, twice born. The sages assembled in Naimisharanya, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sutta Goswami. We're all Brahmanas, but to acquire the qualifications of a Brahmana is not everything. In other words, it's not enough. Merely to be twice born is not perfection. Perfection is attained when one hears the pastimes and activities of the Lord from a bona fide source. The bona fide means they have a bona fide guru who's in a bona fide disciplic succession, which begins from Krishna himself and comes generation generation down the line from bona fide devotees. So it's very good to look and find out what is the parampara of Krishna consciousness. So we have like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, you know. So it's good to hear what that lineage is coming originally from Krishna. Okay, text 34. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Srivatsa, like a tuft of hair on the chest of a devotee. People may take transcendental pleasure even in hearing of the works, and deeds of the devotees whose fame is immortal. Okay, so purport by Srila Prabhupada, this is Canto 3, Chapter 19, Text 34. Bhagavatam literally means the pastimes of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. For example, there are pastimes of Lord Krishna and the narrations of devotees like Prahlada, Dhruva, and Maharaj Ambarisha. Both pastimes pertain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Uh, sorry. See. For example, there are pastimes of Lord Krishna and the narrations of devotees like Prahlada, Dhruva, and Maharaj Ambarisha. Both pastimes pertain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because the devotees' pastimes are in relation with him. The Mahabharata, for example, the history of the Pandavas and their activities is sacred because the Pandavas had a direct relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, that is an important point. Anything that's connected to the bona fide parampara is also bona fide. So we should only hear from bona fide sources that are in this parampara, uh, what you would call the parampara lineage, coming originally from Krishna. Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, and so forth. Uh, that should be the only source that we get information from because it's a bona fide source. There are four bona fide, uh, what do you say, paramparas, but we are in the Brahma Gaudiya parampara. So we should only hear from devotees that are in this parampara. Does that mean we can't hear from the other three bona fide paramparas? No, as long as they're the bona fide paramparas. But best is to hear from the Brahma Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara. Okay. And when it says here, the Mahabharata, for example, the history of the Pandavas and their activities is sacred because the Pandavas had a direct relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so that's who we are hearing from. That's what the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is about, is hearing from bona fide authorities. Text 35. The personality of Godhead delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator, and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. So this is about Gajendra, the, the elephant, who in a previous life was a human being. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The example of the elephant in danger who was saved by the Supreme Lord is especially cited here because even if one is an animal, he can approach the personality of Godhead in devotional service, whereas even a demigod cannot approach the Supreme Person unless he is a devotee. Well, Gajendra was able to remember some things from his previous life, and he, by remembering that, he recited a prayer that he knew, and because of that, he was saved from the terrible grip of that alligator. You know, alligator kept a grip on the leg of Gajendra for a long, long time. And finally, Gajendra, I think he took a flower in his trunk and he started praying to the Lord, remembering a prayer that he from his that he remembered from his previous life when he was a human being. So we see that even an animal can make spiritual advancement by being in the association of devotees. So we have an animal, his name is Ramdas, and another one's name is, her name is Radhika. So uh, they can make spiritual advancement also by associating with devotees. So the example of the elephant in danger who was saved by the Supreme Lord is especially cited here because even if one is an animal, he can approach the personality of Godhead in devotional service, whereas even a demigod cannot approach the Supreme Person unless he is a devotee. So Krishna delivered the king of the elephants, who was attacked by an alligator and who meditated upon the lotus feet of the Lord. At that time, the female elephants who accompanied him were crying, and the Lord saved them from the impending danger. So we should not uh, underestimate what is possible. It's possible for the Lord to deliver animals also from the clutches of Maya. And it's possible for animals to to want to be in the association of devotees. So we have some animals in our community who are in association with devotees, who are hearing, chanting, and also tasting some prasadam, and that's very auspicious for them. And it's like the elephant in danger who was saved by the Supreme Lord is especially cited here because even if one is an animal, he can approach the personality of Godhead in devotional service. Whereas even a demigod cannot approach the Supreme Person unless he is a devotee. So we should not underestimate the uh, cats and the dogs and the uh, uh, different types of animals that can make spiritual advancement by associating with devotees. But the best thing is cows. Okay. Text 36. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of Godhead? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. So when it says unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate means please the Lord. So on one hand, it says the Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. So we should completely depend on Krishna and not anyone else. That's why it says, who resort exclusively to him for protection. Though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him, propitiate means, like I said, pleasing the Lord. So devotees can easily please the Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But their chanting should be done with full, let's say, concentration. They shouldn't be watching television while they're chanting. They shouldn't be thinking of something else while they're chanting or doing something else. You don't want to be a multitask person when you're chanting Hare Krishna. People think, oh, multitasking is good. Well, it might be good for some things, but not for chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna should be done without any, let's say, distraction, with uh, full concentration on hearing, chanting, and hearing the holy name. That means that you should chant loud enough that you can hear it. There should be like a closed circuit from your mouth and lips going out somewhat and then coming over to your ears. So if someone is sitting next to you or not too far away from you, they should also be able to hear you chanting. If you chant silently, well, you can. It's not forbidden, but it's not ideal. Ideal chanting is when it's loud enough to be heard by a person sitting close to you or near you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So when you chant like that, that means you're merciful because you're chanting enough. So you're chanting so that others can also hear you. And they're also chanting, so you can hear them. This silent chanting is not really recommended. I mean, it's not something forbidden, but on the other hand, it's not really recommended because you can, first of all, by chanting not uh, too loudly, but enough so that people can hear you that are close by. That means that that's merciful. You're letting other people hear it. And in certain cases, it's very good to chant loudly, like when we go in Sankirtan, so that many, many people can hear it. So there, but chanting silently, well, who knows what's being chanted? You don't know if the person is saying Hare Krishna or saying Hallelujah. So better to chant loud enough that people can hear you. Okay, so um, text 34. What to speak of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, whose chest is marked with Shivatsa?
We are in the
Okay, we read that, right? So,
36.
huh?
We are in 36.
Okay, yeah. What grateful soul is there who would not render his loving service to such a great master as the personality of God? The Lord can be easily pleased by spotless devotees who resort exclusively to him for protection, though the unrighteous man finds it difficult to propitiate him. So look up the word propitiate. Propitiate.
Win or regain the favor of a god or spirit or person by doing something that pleases them.
Right. Okay. In other words, to please someone. So um, we should please the Lord. How do we please the Lord? Simply follow the regulative principles, and especially chanting Hare Krishna. Okay, so in the purport it says every living entity, especially persons in the human race, must feel grateful for the benedictions offered by the grace of the Supreme Lord. Anyone, therefore, with a simple heart of gratefulness must be Krishna consciousness and offer devotional service to the Lord. Those who are actually thieves and rogues do not recognize or acknowledge the benedictions offered to them by the Supreme Lord, and they cannot render him devotional service. Ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. They enjoy the sunshine and the moonshine, and they get water free of charge. Yet they do not feel grateful, but simply go on enjoying these gifts of the Lord. Therefore, they must be called thieves and rogues. Whoa, that's a pretty severe statement. This ungratefulness, uh, who is the ungrateful person? Those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. Well, what is the arrangement of the Lord? Well, you're able to breathe, you're able to eat, you're able to walk, you're able to see, you're able to associate with devotees, you're all these different things. It's this the arrangement of the Lord, but ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they're deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. And it's not only associating with devotees, it's enjoying the sunshine and moonshine and getting water free of charge and so forth. So all these are, in a sense, what you would call free things. And but when you accept these free things uh, and not feel grateful, just going on enjoying these gifts of the Lord, uh, then we are thieves and rogues. Therefore, we should thank the Lord for having uh, the sun and the warmth of the sun and the light of the sun. We should thank the Lord for rain that that makes things grow. We should thank the Lord for the things that are growing. We should thank the Lord for everything, because if if we live in a place where it's like a desert, that means we've been very sinful, and we're always In a desert, sometimes there's an oasis. That means a small part of the desert where there's some water and some palm trees. So when you're uh, living in a desert and you find an oasis in the middle of the desert, you're really happy. Right? So the material world with so many uh, people that are not devotees, it's like living in a desert. But when you can find a devotee and hear Bhagavatam spoken by devotees, now you're in an oasis, and you get relief from the scorching heat of the desert-like world. We should not spend our whole life in the desert-like world with people talking nonsense all the time and doing nonsense. We should be in the association of devotees, which is like an oasis that quenches our thirst for Krishna consciousness. Now, if someone says, "Oh, I'm not so inspired by, associating with devotees," well, that's their misfortune. But if you are inspired by the association of devotees and inspired by hearing lectures and that edify or give you knowledge of who Krishna is, then you should be count yourself as one of the most fortunate persons in the world, because there are not a majority of people in the world that are hearing Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and associating with devotees and having prasadam and festivals. There are some, but very few if you count the whole population of the world. So the whole population of the world, that's what is it, like 8 billion now, or 10 billion, or something like that. So how many devotees are there? There are thousands. So if you compare the thousands to the billions, that's a small number of devotees. So if we are fortunate enough to associate with devotees, then we are considered to be very, very blessed. And we should cultivate that blessing of associating with devotees by regularly chanting and uh, taking part in different festivals and so forth. And daily chanting is important. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So now you're not only associating with devotees, you're associating directly with Krishna, who's non-different than his holy name. That's why we chant, because we want to associate with Krishna. So you might say, well, I don't see Krishna. That doesn't mean anything. You see by hearing, not necessarily by seeing. You can be fooled by seeing, but you can't be fooled by chanting the holy names of the Lord. So that's the best way to see Krishna, is by chanting his holy names. And Krishna is hearing you because he's in your heart. So that means that he's hearing all the nonsense you might be talking about also. So we should give up the nonsense and increase the chanting and hearing bona fide devotees speak about Krishna. Okay, so then let's see, is it text 36 or 37? 37, yeah. O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the first boar in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. Well, don't kill a Brahmana. You don't want to. You don't want to do that. But it's so auspicious to hear this narration of Hiranyaksha, demon that was killed by the Lord. So people would say, "Oh, well, I don't want to read this. It's all about killing. Well, when it's a demon that's being killed by the Lord, it's very auspicious because the demon is going to go back to Godhead. If you hear about, Al Capone killing someone, that's not auspicious, and they're not going to go back to God. But if you hear about someone who's killed by the Lord, well, that's very auspicious because that person is going to go back to Godhead because of their association with the Lord. So, yeah, I like this statement Prabhupada makes. He says, those who are actually thieves and rogues do not recognize or acknowledge the benedictions offered to them by the Supreme Lord, and they cannot render him, meaning the Lord, devotional service. Ungrateful persons are those who do not understand how much benefit they are deriving by the arrangement of the Lord. And then Prabhupada gives an example. They enjoy the sunshine and moonshine, and they get water free of charge. That's a very nice statement. Uh, Sometimes you hear about natural, what do you call them, water uh, sources. And people will drive many miles to go and get that water.
Springs.
Yeah, water springs. And there are some in this area. Uh, I know in the United States, when I was in Philadelphia, there were water springs you could go to easily. I mean, the water springs here, you have to drive a little bit to get to them. But we used to have one right in Philadelphia. We had one, and and my father and I used to go together regularly to get water from that spring. It was very nice. And it was easy to get to because it was not far away from our house. So, uh, so it says here, they enjoy the sunshine and moonshine, and they get water free of charge. Yeah, the water from a natural spring is free of charge. Yet they do not feel grateful, but simply go on enjoying these gifts of the Lord. Therefore, they must be called thieves and rogues. This is a very profound and important statement. We have to, uh, sometimes you always associate with negative people. They're always talking about this problem and that problem. But devotees are always counting their benedictions, their blessings. So the blessing that they can wake up every day and still be alive. And they can go places where there are festivals going on, like devotees, and they can drink fresh water right from a source, uh, and also uh, the sun is shining, and in the evening the moon is shining, and these are all blessings. We should count our blessings and not complain about oh, this is wrong and that is wrong. You want to always associate with people who are positive. People who are always negative, well, everything is wrong for them. But people who are positive, they see uh, so many opportunities for preaching and getting good association and so forth. So they're very happy. Whereas the negative people, they only see bad things. Just like there's two people talking, and one person said to the other, "Oh, did you hear about our friend John?" The other one says, "No, what is it?" He said, "Well, he was just promoted, and he is doing very well." And the other person says, "Well, that's because he probably lied and said that he did something good." So they don't have anything good to say about anyone. And there are people like that. They're always negative. They always find something wrong rather than something right. So we should always be on the type of person who sees something good and doesn't always dwell on something wrong in a person. So when Prabhupada came to America, he saw so many people that were doing wrong things. So he didn't say, "Oh, it's no use wasting my time here. I'll just go back to India uh, because the people here they're too sinful. They're just nonsense people." No, he didn't say that. He said, "Okay, well, the people are very fallen here, but they should be given a chance of becoming Krishna conscious." So he wasn't negative; he was positive. But negative people, they say, "Oh, well, it's impossible. Nobody's going to listen to what I say," and they leave. And that's the wrong way to look at things. A devotee can turn any place into Vaikuntha by proper preaching and behavior and chanting of purely the holy name. Any place, even the worst place, can become Vaikuntha by the presence of a devotee. So that's how we should think, and that's how we should act. Let's say you're sitting in a bus and the bus is driving. So you can be chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Someone can look at you and ask you a question. "Well, what are you saying?" And you say, "Well, I'm uh, chanting the names of God." "Oh, really? Well, what God is that?" "Krishna." So now the person has become benefited. Why? Because you were chanting, you weren't chanting real loudly, but you were chanting so the person near you can hear you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now that person became benefited and became curious, what is this person saying? And now you have a chance but if you just remain silent, the person doesn't get any benefit at all, and they don't ask any questions, and you don't get the benefit of uh, helping someone else become Krishna conscious. So even if they say, "Well, sir, can you please stop your mumbling because it's disturbing me?" Okay, fine. So you can go and sit a little farther away and mumble to someone else. But we should always be, uh, chanting Hare Krishna some way or other. If you just sit there, don't think, don't chant at all, what benefit is there? You don't get any benefit, and nobody else gets a benefit. But if you sit somewhere in a bus, let's say, and you chant, you don't have to scare everyone by chanting out loud, too loud. But you just say, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So people sitting near you can hear, and they can ask you, what are you saying? And you explain to them that it's a prayer, and it's all about Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. So that way, you are benefited, and they are benefited. But if you just remain silent, neither you are benefited nor are they benefited. So we should always be chanting Hare Krishna wherever we are. Now you might say, "Well, what if I'm in class in high school and I'm always chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna," and then it's going to disturb the other classmates, and it's going to disturb the teacher. Well, that may be true, but uh, you can eventually, they'll take you to the uh, uh, to the office, and there'll be a complaint. This person is always chanting something, and it's disturbing everyone else. And and then the what do you call that? The principal, said, "Well, look, if you're going to do like this, then we're going to have to ask you to not come to the school anymore." That's good. You don't have to go to the school and learn from the demons. So that would be a blessing, not go to that school anymore. But you might want to try this. It'd be a good thing to do. If you read the history of Prahlad Maharaj, whenever the teacher would leave the room for this reason or that reason, immediately he would get up and tell everyone, "Okay, now we can chant Hare Krishna," and they would chant Hare Krishna, And then the teacher would come back and they'd all keep quiet again, but they would keep mumbling, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, So there was always Hare Krishna going on wherever there was Prahlad Maharaj. So if Prahlad Maharaj did that, why can't we do it? Right? We should do it also. Okay, so we are on text 37, is it? O Brahmanas, anyone who hears, chants, or takes pleasure in the wonderful narration of the killing of the Hiranyaksha demon by the Lord, who appeared as the firstborn in order to deliver the world, is at once relieved of the results of sinful activities, even the killing of a Brahmana. So all of us are hearing about how Hiranyaksha was killed. And it's for our benefit. Now, someone could say, well, that doesn't sound so good. Why? What's so wonderful about someone being killed? Well, yes, if you hear about a criminal who kills someone, there's nothing beneficial about that. But if you hear about someone who is killed by Krishna, that means that they are the most, let's say, uh, lucky person because now they go back to Godhead. So there's different types of killing. So let's see what Prabhupada says. Purport. Since the personality of Godhead is in the absolute position, there's no difference between his pastimes and his personality. Anyone who hears about the pastimes of the Lord associates with the Lord directly, and one who associates directly with the Lord is certainly freed from all sinful activity, even to the extent of the killing of a Brahmin, which is considered the most sinful activity in the material world. Well, you don't want to test that. You don't want to kill a Brahmin and consider it as the most, which is the most sinful activity, but you'll be freed from all sinful activities. No. Uh, but what you want to do is respect Brahmanas, and not only Brahmanas, respect all people by helping everyone, uh, having some mercy in the form of prasadam or in the form of a book about Krishna, etc. One should be very eager to hear about the activities of the Lord from the bona fide source, the pure devotee. If one simply gives oral reception to the narration and accepts the glories of the Lord, then he is qualified. Qualified what? Qualified to go on hearing about the pastimes of the Lord. The impersonalist philosophers cannot understand the activities of the Lord. They think that all his activities are Maya. Therefore, they're called Mayavadis. Mayavadis means they're worshiping something that's illusory. Since everything to them is Maya, these narrations are not for them. Some impersonalists are reluctant to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, although many of them are now taking an interest in it just for monetary gain. Yeah, so there are Mayavadis who are reciting and speaking their own, speculations about the Srimad Bhagavatam. And they're the ones that do the Sapta, Bhagavat Sapta.
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, the 7-day recitation of the Bhagavatam. You should never go to a Bhagavat Sapta. because it's usually done by the Mayavadis just to attract people. And they give their own interpretations of the Shastra. There are even some devotees now, they organize a Bhagavat Saptaha, They shouldn't do that. Prabhupada was against that. Why? Because Bhagavat should be heard every day, not just 7 days. Huh? Yeah, Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Yeah. What is this nonsense? Just 7 days. Yeah. So someone would say, well, it's 7 days is better than no day. No, if you hear from a Mayavadi reciting Bhagavatam for 7 days, that means 7 days that you're being contaminated by his speculations.
Originally, Bhagavatam was spoken for 7 days, right? That's the argument that they say. So, because Parikshit Maharaj was hearing from.
Yeah, but that's because he was going to die in 7 days. So if you're willing to die in 7 days, that's all right. After 7 days, you'll be killed, and hopefully we'll go back to Godhead. But I don't think anyone wants to do that. One should be very eager to hear about the activities of the Lord from the bona fide source, the pure devotee. If one simply gives oral reception to the narration and accepts the glories of the Lord, then he is qualified. Oral, Aural. Aural means with your ears. If one simply gives oral reception to the narration and accepts the glories of the Lord, then he is qualified. The impersonalist philosophers cannot understand the activities of the Lord. They think that all his activities are Maya. Therefore, they are called Mayavadis. Since everything to them is Maya, these narrations are not for them. Some impersonalists are reluctant to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, although many of them are now taking an interest in it just for monetary gain. Yeah, they do, Bhagavat Saptaha, 7 days, and then people give them donations. So it's a way of making money, but it doesn't really purify anyone. Actually, however, they have no faith. On the contrary, they describe it in their own way. We should not hear, therefore, from the Mayavadis. We have to hear from Sutta Goswami or Maitreya, who actually present the narrations as they are, and only then can we relish the pastimes of the Lord. Otherwise, the effects on the neophyte audience will be poisonous. Whoa. And now we'll do the last verse of this chapter. And it says, this most sacred narrative confers extraordinary merit, wealth, fame, longevity, and all the objects of one's desire. On the field of battle, it promotes the strength of one's vital organs and organs of action. One who listens to it at the last moment of his life is transferred to the supreme abode of the Lord, O dear Sonika. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devotees are generally attracted by the narratives of the pastimes of the Lord, and even though they do not prosecute austerities or meditation, this very process of hearing attentively about the pastimes of the Lord will endow them with innumerable benefits, such as wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims of life. If one continues to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which we should send this to Elon Musk. He can prolong his life by hearing Bhagavatam. We should advertise this. This is important. They're all wanting to have a longer lifetime. Here's the way. Yeah, we should send this to him. If one continues to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, which is full of narratives and pastimes of the Lord, at the end of this life, one is sure to be transferred to the eternal, transcendental abode of the Lord. Thus, hearers are benefited both ultimately and for as long as they are in the material world. Both ultimately and for as long as they are in the material world. That is the supreme, sublime result of engaging in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is to spare some time and listen to Srimad Bhagavatam from the right source. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommended 5 items of devotional service, namely 1, to serve devotees of the Lord, 2, chant Hare Krishna, 3, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, 4, worship the deity of the Lord, and 5, to live in a place of pilgrimage. Just before these 5 activities, just performing these 5 activities can deliver one from the miserable condition of material life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Killing of the Demon Hiranyaksha. Hari Bol. So it's really very, very auspicious to hear Bhagavatam every day, and which is what we're doing. And then look what it says. It says that this very process of hearing attentively about the pastimes of the Lord will endow them, many people, with innumerable benefits, such as wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims of life. Well, I have to confess that this is true. I don't work, I don't do anything, and still wealth is coming, in different ways, and other desirable aims of life. Yeah. So we should take this up as not only the truth, but the most, let's say, greatest benefit that we can. And so Prabhupada is saying, will endow people that do this with innumerable benefits, such as wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims of life. That's an amazing statement. We'll stop right there. I'm going to meditate on this all day long today. This is such a profound statement by Prabhupada. And we want to thank Prabhupada for writing such nice purports. So thus in the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Killing of the Demon Hiranyaksha. So when you hear about the killing of a demon, actually it's something really, especially if it's killed by the lords. Okay, well, we'll stop there today. I'm going to meditate on this whole day. Haribol. Very, very,
very, very important to relate to this statement of Prabhupada.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
So they are benefited. The hearers are benefited both in the material world, Maharaj, and also they are taken to the transcendental level. Both are happening.
You can't beat that.
Yes.
No one else can guarantee that.
That is the supreme sublime result of engaging in devotion.
Yeah. You see, this is the most wonderful thing. We're very fortunate. Wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims. There are innumerable benefits. And endow, E-N-D-O-W, look up that word, endow. Means you're blessed. What's it say?
Is it provide with a quality or ability or asset? Basically, endow means to empower, basically, empower.
Yeah.
Or bless them
with wealth, fame, longevity, and other desirable aims of life. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram. We've all been endowed today. by hearing these wonderful statements by Prabhupada.
So serve the devotees of the Lord, chant Hare Krishna, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, worship the deity of the Lord, and live in a place of pilgrimage. That's it.
Yeah. Well, any place where the Bhagavatam is being recited is a place of pilgrimage, in a sense, it's because it's a holy place.
Definitely, Samamish has been a dham. Lots of people are moving from Florida, Bay Area, and whatnot.
Definitely. When I ask people, I said, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "New York." I said, "Oh, you made a good decision." Wants to live in New York is a horrible place, but it's a good place if there's Krishna Katha. Actually, New York City is the best place in the world to do Harinam Sankirtan. You can do 24 hours a day. There's people all night long in New York City, all night long they're there, and in the day also. So you have two types of people: the people who are day people and the people who are night people. There's almost as many people at night that there are in the day.
So they work in the night, Maharaj?
They work or they go to nightclubs, places like that. They're up till like 4 o'clock in the morning, talking nonsense. And they're forced to stop at 4 o'clock because I think the law is that 4 o'clock in the morning you have to stop. All the liquor places have to close.
4 o'clock is when devotees.
That's when they wake up.
They also know the limit. That's exactly the Krishna's verse. What is day for transcendental or vice versa?
Yeah. What is nights for the introspective stage is daytime for devotees. That's when the devotees are waking up and the other nonsense people are going to sleep. And it's like that exactly. Haribol.
So the 216. What is night for all beings?
Yeah.
Is the time of awakening for the self-control.
Right.
And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective stage.
Yeah. And one time I was in a car with Prabhupada and I asked a question and there was a lot of noise from the outside, cars. So I said, what did I say? I asked him the meaning of this verse, what just read what you just read. What is
night for all beings?
Yeah.
Is the time of awakening for self-control and
so all he heard was time of awakening. He said, 4 o'clock. That's when our devotees wake up. Then I said, no, Prabhupada, because there was a lot of noise from the outside. I said, I was speaking about this verse, that exact verse. And he started laughing. He said, oh, okay. He said, this verse means that, so read it.
What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-control.
Yeah. So he said, this verse means that when the karmis see us, they're laughing, thinking we're wasting our life. And when we see the karmis, we're laughing because we think they're wasting their life. But our laugh is best.
That is so true.
Yeah.
It's like with this knowledge, with this lens, we see the other side is nonsense,
Yeah.
clearly. And then without realizing this knowledge, they think that we are wasting.
Yeah.
Most of our friends and all, they think that we are just crazy.
Your old friend?
Crazy.
Yeah. why are you doing this? As if you're doing something wrong. You're missing so much fun. Well,
Be normal.
yeah, be normal, be miserable. Yeah, their normal is misery. Yeah. So we have to, just stay under the umbrella of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. But it's a big umbrella. Everyone can fit under that umbrella. Haribol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna.